when you first download Photoshop to use at home, if you want to use Photoshop for anything where you need to use the brush tool for Photoshop, like drawing or painting or anything where when you're doing touch up and you're using the brush tool, what you'll find is Photoshop in some of the latest versions, they've really streamlined the amount of brushes that they have on the system ready downloaded for you. So if I go up to my brush library at the top, you'll find your general sort of standard soft brown brush, your hard round brush, your opacity brushes, maybe one or two other texture brushes, but not very much, especially compared to what they used to have, quite a few brushes to choose from. And I think the general thing is what they expect is that you will go onto their website or go onto third-party websites and download your own brushes, whatever brushes you want to use. So what I want to show you is how you can download some brushes, because a lot of you, if you're doing some drawing and painting, you might find that the brushes that are on the system are a little bit limiting and there's not much choice there. So what I'm going to show you will work for you at home. It'll also work when you're in school and you want to download some brushes at school. You can do it there as well. So places where you can download brushes, I mean, you've got the Adobe website, which is what I'll show you, but there's loads and loads of other websites as well where you can download hundreds and hundreds of free brushes. So I would, go and have a look. If you type in free Photoshop brushes and just have a look and see what you can find. If you're looking for anything specific, I'm pretty confident you'll easily be able to find it for free as well. So you don't generally have to pay for these brushes. So let's open up the brush library first of all. So if I click on this button here, it will open up our brush libraries over here. So you've got your brush settings and then you've got your brushes. So if you go to this the options menu just here and click on here, and if you go down to get more brushes, click on there and it will take you to the Adobe website. You want to continue to the UK site and it may ask you to sign in. I'm already signed in, so it hasn't asked me to do that, but it may ask you to sign in. So if it does, you just need to sign in using your school email and your login as you would do when you log in to use Photoshop at home or at school. So what you'll find is once you log in, you'll get taken to this page here. And if you scroll down, you've got a wide range of different brushes that you can download. So you've got some watercolor effect brushes, you've got some Keith Haring inspired brushes. The mega pack is full of things like there's some pencil brushes, some charcoal brushes, there's some marker pen. So it's got a range of lots of different brushes in there. You got your dry media brushes like charcoaly style, gouache paint, splatter brushes. So there's loads and loads of different brushes here that you can choose to download. So I'm going to download this top one because I don't have that one. So if I click on there, and it should download it into your downloads. And then all you need to do is to click on it and it should appear. If it doesn't, what I would suggest is just open up your downloads and just double click on it, and it should open up then in your brush library. So now whether you come down here or whether you go over here, let me just close this general brushes so it's not quite so massive. When I go to the bottom, that's where it'll be, okay, my new brushes. So now when I go in there, I've got a range of brushes that I can sort of choose and use and have a play around with. You can see there's lots of different types of brushes here. Let's have a look at that one. So you can have a play around with those brushes. So you can go on and you can download as many as you like. As you can see here, I've downloaded, let me just close that, quite a few different brush packs here from lots of different places. Okay, so it's really easy to do. It's that straightforward. And if you download them from other places on the internet, sometimes all you need to do is to download them. You go to your downloads where they will be, and then you just drag and drop, and usually that will put them into Photoshop and it should open. So that's a really easy way of downloading more extra brushes that you can work with. Right, the second thing I want to show you is how you can create some of your own brushes, because you can create a brush from any image that you can have on your screen. So I'm going to show you just a basic pattern I'll create, and then I'll turn that into a brush shape. And then what I'll do is I'll get some images off the internet and show you how you can change them into brushes as well. So I'm just going to create a basic pattern. So I think I just grabbed myself there, just double check I've got the right brush. Yeah, a nice hard round brush I'm going to use for this. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make it bigger. So I'm just pressing these square brackets next to the P on the keyboard to get a nice big brush. Okay, just make a circle. Now I'm going to use the eraser tool. So I'm pressing E for the eraser tool. I'm going to make that bigger. I'm going to make sure I've chosen the same brush. It doesn't look like I have there. Let's see how this looks. I've got a soft brush there. Let's see how that looks. So I'll make that a bit bigger. And I've got that there. That kind of might work. Let's do that. Yeah, let's try that. I'm just playing around at the moment. Not quite sure how this is going to look. Let's make that a little bit smaller. Let's see what it looks like if I put that in the middle. Yeah, that might work. Let's go back to the E for the eraser brush. So I'm just making a random pattern at the moment, just playing around with this. Might look good, might not. If it doesn't look good, I can just undo it and try something else. B for brush is a keyboard shortcut, is an easy way, saving you having to go all the way over here each time to get the brush and the eraser tool. So the E for the eraser and B for brush. Let's do one more eraser in the middle. So E for eraser, square brackets to make it smaller. And let's just click that in the middle there. It's not quite in the middle. Might have to zoom in to get this, but I think I got it. Yeah, that'll do. So that's a basic pattern that I've just created. So I'm going to turn that into a brush shape. I don't know how this is going to look, but let's give it a go anyway. So if we go up to edit at the top, and if we go down to define brush preset, you can give it a name. Circles will do, and then press OK. And now I've got a brush. Actually, I'm on the eraser, so that's why nothing happened there. So if I go to my brush tool, it will be the last thing. It usually appears at the very bottom. So at the bottom of all your other brushes, your new brush will usually appear there, and there we go. You can easily change the colour to whatever you want. Quite easily, you can change the opacity if you want to make it partially see-through. Let's put that on top of there, see how that looks. But that's basically how you create a brush, and I can draw with it, you know, or whatever. Okay, so it's quite good for creating patterns. I'm just going to press Control-A to select it all and delete to get rid of all of that. And then Control-D to deselect my selection because I don't need that anymore. So you can basically create any pattern or drawing or design. You can take one of the drawings you've created and turn that into a brush shape. You can turn anything that's on your screen into a brush shape. So another that one. I've just found a couple of images. So I've got some shells there. I've got some lightning here. I always quite like the look that lightning creates when you create a brush out of lightning. So I've just chosen this image here, but I could go through and choose a range. That one would work quite well. That one might be a bit weird because there's lots of different tones in the background. This one also here has got lots of different colours in the background, so that one might not work so well. But the best thing to do with this is just experiment and play around. So I'm just going to right click, copy image, go back to Photoshop, Control V to paste. It's a little bit small, so Control T, enlarge it to the size that a little bit bigger size, doesn't need to be that massive. Press enter to finish my transformation. So I'm going to turn this into a brush shape. But before I do that, I obviously don't want this big black line around it, and I certainly don't want this BBC News logo on there either. So I'm going to do a couple of things to it before I turn it into a brush shape, because if I had a brush of this, I'd just be recreating this rectangle shape with lightning in the middle, and I don't really want that. So if I go up to image at the top, and if I go to adjustments, and I'm going to start by inverting the image. So when I click on invert, it just makes all the lights dark and all the darks light. So it just mirrors it a little bit, turns it round. Now we've got a lot of green here, which isn't very nice. So I'm going to go to image again, adjustments again, but this time I'm going to go to brightness and contrast. And I'm going to put the contrast down. Okay, that will get rid of all those mid-tones and those light tones. And I'm going to put the brightness up, but be careful not to go too high, because if you look, when it goes quite high, you start to lose some of the details down here and over here a little bit. So sort of be selective as to how much of that background you take away without losing any of your foreground. And I think that looks about fine. I'm going to press OK. So that looks mostly okay at the moment. There's a couple of little things I want to do, like get rid of this BBC logo. So I'm just going to get the square selections tool, the rectangular selection tool, select it, delete, Control D to deselect that, and that's gotten rid of that. I also want to get rid of this hard edge I've got at the top and the bottom, because that doesn't look so nice, and I think I'll use the eraser for that. So if I go over to the eraser tool, and then I obviously don't want the brush I just created. I'm just going to choose a soft round edge brush. It's a little big, so let me make that a bit smaller. I'm just pressing the square brackets next to the P on the keyboard, and I'm just going to rub out that hard edge. The reason I used a soft edge brush is to get rid of the hard edge. If I used a hard edge rubber, then I'd end up still creating a hard edge there, so I just wanted to get rid of that. So I think that looks okay. If you wanted to, if you had some excess other colour in the background, you could get your magic wand tool and sort of select areas, and then just press delete. But I've just selected white, so it's not going to do anything there. Control D to deselect. I don't like that. I'm going to undo that. Control Z again, and then Control D. So I'm going to leave that gradual tone there, but you know, if there was a bit too much, you could sit and select and press delete to get rid of that. Control D. But if it looks bad like mine just did, you can just undo it. So it's worth just having a play around and see what looks good. So I'm going to go with that. I'm going to turn that into my brush now. So if I go up to edit this time, so before we went up to image and adjustments, and we used brightness and contrast and invert. Now I'm going to go to edit and then define brush preset again. I'll call this one lightning, and then press OK. So I'm on my brush tool, and that's my lightning I've just created there. So I'm just going to change the colour. Let's try a darker red there, so you can. So that's my brush. I'm going to hide that layer for a minute, make a new layer so I can have a proper look, see how it looks. Yeah, that looks okay. So that's how you can create. Oh, my opacity is at 56. I thought it was a bit pale. There we go. Let's try it now. Let's Control Z those two. Let's have another look. Yeah, it's a bit better. I thought it was a bit pale. And I can make the brush smaller. I can make it obviously bigger. So square brackets to do that. If I go over to my brush options over here, so I want brush settings. If I open up my spacing at the bottom, I can see it a bit clearer because I'm obviously not drawing a line with this. I'm just clicking to create my lightning. So the spacing doesn't really matter. The reason I opened it up is because there I can't really see it and there I can. But what I can do is I can move this little thing here and I can change the angle of my lightning. So if I wanted to make some kind of lightning sort of storm effect, I could easily change the direction of my lightning to suit, you know, where I wanted it to be. So that's how you can create your own brush shapes quite easily there. I'm going to Control A and then press delete and click on there. I'm just going to press delete to get rid of that layer as well. So Control D to deselect. Let's go back. So what else? Let's have a look at these x-rays of shells. So what I found is x-rays of objects can look quite nice as brushes because they're generally black and white. It works better if it's not all colourful. And shells are quite nice. They've got lots of nice patterns and shapes within them. But x-rays of anything, x-rays of flowers looks quite nice as well, or x-rays of random stuff can look quite nice and work quite well for this effect. So when you're choosing your image, it doesn't matter if it's got a black background or not, because we can just invert it if it does. So I don't know, I'm just having a look through. Let's try this one here. Right click, copy image, and then Control V to paste, Control T to enlarge it, just so we can see it a bit better, what we're doing. Press enter. Let me just get rid of the stupid lightning that keeps popping up. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is invert it again. So go to image, go to adjustments, go to invert. So now we've got the white background that we want, because we don't want to create a brush that's got a big square around it. We can then go to image, adjustments again, and brightness contrast again. Even though mostly it looks alright, we can just see if we can make it look better. So you can see if you want to get rid of that grey that we had. So you can just put the brightness up. But be careful when you put the brightness up, you don't lose any detail that you want. And let's put the contrast down as well. That'll get rid of a lot of those mid-tones. Let me just have a little play around before I decide. I quite like it like this, I think. Yeah, and let's play around with this a little bit. Yeah, so that looks alright. I might bring the brightness back if it's a bit over. I like the brightness down in the middle, but then up a bit at the edges. But there are ways of playing around with that, but for now we'll just stick with that. And then all we do is go to edit, define brush preset, shell, OK, and then let's just hide that, go on this layer, and there we got a shell. And again, we can do it any color. We can go up to the brush settings, and I can open up the spacing so I can see what it is, how it looks. I can change the angle, I can change the size of it, so I can make it much smaller, and I can create a design or a pattern or anything like that. Okay, so that's basically how you can create your own brushes and how you can download your own brushes as well.